أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين حبيبنا وطبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وتلك الأيام نداولها بين الناس وليعلم الله الذين آمنوا ويتخذ منهم شهداء. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Alhamdulillah, as I condole you, my dear brothers, on the coming of the month of Muharram, I also congratulate you that Alhamdulillah, 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 you and I were once again given that blessing and the invitation to wear these black clothes and gather in gatherings such as these. A blessing that's not given to anyone and everyone for free. There were people that you may know or people that you may not know that for the years of their lives they would spend their Muharram and their Safar in these kind of gatherings next to you. But then this year they're nowhere to be found. One year they said they'll watch online, the other year they said I have work, I'll take Ashura off. Then one year all of a sudden the 10 days come and the 10 days go and they're nowhere to be seen. But you're still here. So it's not an invitation that everyone receives and that everyone accepts. Imam Husain alayhi salam is for everyone. Imam Husain alayhi salam wants to take the hand of everyone. But it's people like you, my dear brothers, that accepts. That's not a blessing to take lightly. Alhamdulillah, you and I gather here this year the way we have been gathering in the previous years. But now this brings up a question. That if I'm gathering here now, and now we've reached the 3rd of Muharram, we were also gathering last year. And for the older ones amongst you, you've been gathering for more years and the younger ones for less. But nonetheless, we've been gathering every single year. And so it becomes a bit funny and silly if every year we're gathering, we're wearing black clothes and we're crying and we're beating our chests and nothing comes out of it. The invitation came? Yes. Invitation accepted? Yes. Your host is Lady Zahra Salawatullah alayha. Yes, you cry and your tears will intercede for you on the Day of Judgment. Also yes. But if every year you gather and every year your gathering is the same and you don't change, I wonder what kind of gathering we have. Our seventh Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salatu was-salam,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
he says, for a believer, no 2 days are the same. The one whose 2 days are the same is at loss. Meaning if your yesterday is the same as your today, then it's not the case that you stay in the same spot. No, you've regressed lower. Let me give you an example to make it make sense. When there's a flowing river, the water is moving. We're told that if you want to take a cup and put it into the river and take a drink, if it's fresh water of course, typically it should be okay. Because flowing water is clean water. Yeah? But would anyone go to their local park and find a still water pond with all those lily pads and take a cup, put it in, and take a sip? No. Because still water collects bacteria. Still water isn't clean. You and I as well, our iman must be like flowing water. If your iman and your faith becomes like still water, you can't say that my iman is in the same place it was yesterday. No, if your iman isn't consistently increasing, it is decreasing. And so if my Muharram of this year is the same as my Muharram of last year, then it's not the case that Alhamdulillah I was here last year and Alhamdulillah I'm back again. The quality of your Muharram is different. That which you're supposed to be taking from your Muharram isn't that which you are taking. Inshallah, the brothers who are praying regularly now, it feels like every prayer is like the last one. The difference is one has 2 units, one has 4, and one has 3. But that's not the case. Your prayers are a practice run for the next one, that it consistently gets better. Your focus increases, your connection gets stronger. And if you find that one prayer is like the other prayer, then you have to start asking some questions. Why do we say this? We started the lecture on such a Debbie Downer note. Why you first you said Alhamdulillah we're here, now you're saying it's not enough to say Alhamdulillah we're here. What's the story? My dear brothers, we're living in changing times. So it only makes sense that we're changing as well. We want to tell a quick story. At the outset, we want to mention a story from our beloved Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad.
When Surah An-Nur, the 24th chapter of the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in verses 62 and 63 tells us about something that the Holy Prophet would do and something that the companions would do as well. He says that when the Prophet calls you towards amrin jami', towards a very important, momentous occasion, towards something that's very important, when he calls you to gather together to discuss something that's very crucial to the ummah, don't just leave unless you ask permission. What's the story? The Holy Prophet didn't have Twitter, the Holy Prophet didn't have Instagram, the Holy Prophet didn't have Telegram or WhatsApp. He didn't have access to the local newspaper or the news bulletin online. What the Prophet would do is that he'd gather everyone in the masjid, in his masjid, and he'd say, this is what's going on in the world today. Open parenthesis for a second. If the Prophet is telling the Muslims you should be aware of what's happening in the world, he wasn't just talking to his Sahaba. You too should be aware of what's happening in the world. The Prophet gathered the people and said, this is the news bulletin of today. This week, this is what happened. This is what happened in Yemen. This is what happened in Mecca. This is what happened in Rome. This is what happened in Persia. There's a new tribe that's coming in, a Christian tribe that's coming into Medina. You should be aware, these are who they are. The Prophet is giving the rundown. Close parenthesis. Go back to the story. Here Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, O Muslims, I've gathered you here in the masjid to tell you that this is what's going on. Why have I told you this? We need one volunteer to go to that place, another volunteer to go over there. Maybe we get a little brigade together and we're going to send them all over there. Who's going to volunteer? The ayah of the Quran says, only the believers. Only. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Only the believers. They're only those people who, when they want to leave the masjid, after the Prophet called them, they seek permission. They don't just walk out. Again, this is kind of strange. What are you talking about? What's the story? The Holy Prophet would gather the people. When you would gather the people and hand out these tasks, you want to go to Yemen, you want to go to Mecca, you want to go to Filan place, okay, everyone has their tasks. Some people, like snakes, would slither out. No, Khuda, there's nothing. This, he's assigning tasks. And they make their way out. The Quran says, if you're truly a believer, you don't just dip when things get tough. When you start to see that practical tasks are being put in your lap, you can't just run. In Surah Al-Ankabut, in the very beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the very first ayah says, أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. Do the people really think? Hasiba means calculations. Use a calculator before? When you punch in the numbers on the calculator, you're doing your best to get to the desired result. This equation you're throwing into the calculator, this is your best bet. When you punch in these numbers, you're trying to get the best result. Allah is saying, have you punched in these numbers in the calculator, and seriously, the result that you arrived at is that it's going to be enough for you to say, Amanna, I believe, we believe, that's enough? You don't think you'll be tested? So what these guys are doing now, when the Prophet calls them to the masjid, they say, uh-oh, the test is coming, the fitna is coming. وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Fitna means test. The test is coming, the Prophet wants to send us to go and do something. Uh-oh, I have my 9-to-5 job, I'm living in my nice suburban home, the mortgage is paid off, I just paid it off, I'm taking my family to Hawaii next summer. No, we can't go on a big expedition now. So they slither out of the masjid and hide. Okay. Maybe some of you have gone for Umrah, maybe some of you have gone for Hajj, maybe you've seen Masjid al-Nabi, or at least you've seen the pictures of Masjid al-Nabi. Masjid al-Nabi today has a lot of columns and pillars. At that time there weren't columns and pillars, there were trees. What these guys would do is when they realize that the Prophet is handing out big tasks, you're going to go here, you're going to go there, you need to sweat a little bit and struggle for my cause, they hide behind the trees so the Prophet couldn't see them. Can you imagine? The Prophet knows you're hiding behind that tree, man. He can see you. But they didn't want to take on that task so badly that they were prepared to hide behind a tree and embarrass themselves, and I would say embarrass the Prophet, that you are supposedly a follower of him and his path, that they would hide behind a tree to avoid this task. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, only the believers, only they remain in the masjid, and if they want to leave, they say, Ya Rasulullah, can I go back to work now? Have you handed out the task? There's nothing for me? You sure? Okay, for the office, with your permission. Which means that the guys that would slither out are not believers. The guys that would escape so they could avoid responsibility are hypocrites. Why mention this in Muharram? Our master who we have come to commemorate, Mawla Aba Abdullah Husain alayhi afdal as-salatu was-salam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali
Imam
Muhammad.
Husain alayhi salam is in Mecca. In Mecca he finds out that Yazid has sent about 20 plus assassins to kill him around the Kaaba. Yazid isn't a guy with, prestige and honor. He doesn't do things classy with it. Gets down and dirty. Next to the Kaaba, the most sacred place on earth, yeah, we'll kill him right there, no problem. He's that kind of man. Abu Abdullah alayhi salam doesn't want his blood to be shed in Mecca. We have a riwayah where Imam Husain alayhi salam says that it's better that my blood is shed in Karbala than it's shed around the Kaaba. Abu Abdullah alayhi salam knew where he's going. He knew where he's going to end up. On the way, he's leaving Mecca, he sees the famous poet, who I'm sure his name you have all heard. He sees the poet Farazdaq. Because Farazdaq, you are someone that is aware of the current affairs. You know the news. You know what's going on in the Ummah. Why? Because Farazdaq, while he was someone that loved the Ahlul Bayt, and he was someone that would recite poetry for the Ahlul Bayt, he was also in and out of the castle of the Banu Umayyah as well. He knew what was going inside the ranks of the Banu Umayyah and the people who are connected to the Banu Umayyah. He says, Farazdaq, tell me what you think is going on in the city. What's going on? What's your analysis of what's taking place currently? Farazdaq says, أَمَّا الْقُلُوبُ فَمَعَكَ وَأَمَّا السُّيُوفُ فَمَعَ بَنِي أُمَيَّةَ. Which some poets later on, and they turned this into poetry, and they said, سُيُوفُهُمْ مَعَكَ وَقُلُوبُهُمْ مَعَكَ وَسُيُوفُهُمْ عَلَيْكَ. What this means is, Ya Aba Abdullah, the hearts of the people are with you. The what? The hearts of the people are with you, but their swords are against you. Now, This part is not the hadith of the Imam. What's important here is that the Imam goes on to say, مَا أَرَاكَ إِلَّا صَدَقْتَ. I don't see your speech to be anything but the truth. Meaning, Abu Abdullah alayhi salam is saying, Farazda, the way you just described the situation of the Ummah, on point. You nailed it. But if Farazda say, Ya Abu Abdullah, the people in their hearts, they love you. But their swords are against you. The people come to the masjid because the Holy Prophet called them to the masjid, but all of a sudden when the going gets tough, they slither out. قُلُوبُهُمْ مَعَكَ. One problem, سُيُوفُهُمْ عَلَيْكَ. Their swords are against you. My dear brothers, it's clear to me that you've all dressed in dark colors. You've recited poetry for Abu Abdullah. Maybe before I arrived, there was someone who recited the Quran or a hadith of Qisar. You've come here to mourn Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. And therefore, I don't doubt that in your hearts you love Imam Husain alayhi salam. I don't question that. And Imam Husain alayhi salam himself does not question that. Not today. Then, at that time when Farazdaq said, the hearts of the people are with you, Abu Abdullah says, مَا أَرَاكَ إِلَّا صَدَقْتَ. You're telling me the truth. The people in their hearts do love me. Yes. The problem is that there's a gap between what's in their heart and what's in their action. Yes, I am wearing black. I am attending the Majlis of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. The same way I attended last year as well, and the year before that. I'm still here, alhamdulillah. The problem isn't with my love in my heart. That's in its own place. That's fine. You do love Imam Husain alayhi salam. The problem is when that love in the heart doesn't translate over into action. Such that when this love doesn't translate into action, it's very likely that your sword may be against Abu Abdullah. We said all of that as a preliminary to say this. Some people come and falsely claim, you all shouldn't be crying for Imam Husain alayhi salam because the Shia killed Imam Husain alayhi salam. And you just admitted that Abu Abdullah alayhi salam accepted that the hearts of the people are with him. Therefore the Shia killed Imam Husain. Furthermore, the people who wrote letters to Imam Husain alayhi salam from Kufa, 3, 4, a handful of them actually ended up leaving Kufa and making their way to Imam Husain alayhi salam's side on the day of Ashura. A handful. Habib, Nafi' bin Hilal, Muslim ibn Awsaja, how many? And then Imam Husain alayhi salam on the 10th of Muharram looks to the enemies and says, hey, this letter, you wrote it. This one, you wrote it. Didn't you? Come, collect your letter, take your letter back. You wrote to me. In your letter, you said, Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal, come to Kufa, you're the Imam. Why are you on that side? The question is, was it the Shia that killed Abu Abdullah alayhi salam? This depends on how we define the word Shia now. If Shia means that guy who in his heart he loves Abu Abdullah, in the same way Farazdaq said, قُلُوبُهُمْ مَعَكَ, their hearts are with you, then yeah, Umar ibn Sa'd, la'anatullah alayhi, on the day of Ashura, while the enemy sat on the chest of Husayn, he shed some tears. That doesn't sound like a guy that he hates Abu Abdullah. Well, he's crying. Umar ibn Sa'd, that mal'oon is crying when Shimr is sitting on the chest of Imam Husayn. So there's some little thing in his heart there. Something. It might not be a lot, but he cried. Just like how you and I cry. If your definition of Shia is someone who in their heart has some sort of nice feeling for Imam Husayn, yeah, I'm sure there were a lot of people in that army that had that sort of nice feeling. You know, let's say there's 30,000 people in the army of Yazid, okay? Not every single person was on the battlefield fighting. For sure there were some people who were looking at the back, biting their nails, oh man, they're really going to do it, they're really going to do it. No doubt about that. There were definitely people who had come from Kufa because they were scared. But this is exactly our problem. In a world that we live in today, where the non-Muslims look more Husayni than the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we have a problem. If the non-Muslim, whose entire life goal is to go to university, make it into that great career of his, land a good paying job, then buy a house, pay off the house, retire early, take the family on vacation, and then retire early with a nice house and kids and luxury in his home. If a guy whose whole worldview is that says, I'm willing to get kicked out of my university, to make a stand for oppressed people in another part of the world that don't share the same religion or ethnicity as me, then me as a Husayni, I should feel ashamed if I'm doing that. Because his life goal was to land that job, and now he's saying I'm willing to risk it. At least my life goal isn't material. My life goal is something else. If I don't end up if I get kicked out of the university, I know Allah will make a way out for me. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Allah promises me in the Quran, you stand for your principles and your values, I make a way out for you. الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Those who struggle in my way, we guide them to our path. Don't worry. But that guy doesn't see what I see, yet he's willing to get kicked out of his uni. He's willing to lose his job. He's willing to put everything that he knows to be dear and near to him on the line for people that he doesn't know, for people that say, La ilaha illallah. If my heart is with Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, but my sword doesn't swing in the same direction as his, then sure, I'm calling myself Husayni. But I might have to introspect a little bit whether or not that's true. Inshallah, in these majalis that we're gathering in, these become the ignition of a big Husayni flame for us that allows us to take the love of Abu Abdullah, which is in our hearts, and translate it into action. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe Sahib al-Zaman alayhi salam is just waiting for you. Just you. Everything else is set. He's just waiting. He's waiting to see which person will look out into the world and hear the cries of al-Atash coming from the different parts of the Muslim world and respond to it, and not be taken over by fears. I have all these benefits that I might lose. I was promised X and Y. Someone told me I'll become the governor of Ray. Someone told me he'll give me 100 dinars. Someone told me he'll give me 100 camels. Some people with the fantasy and the dream of becoming a governor of a province sold their world and their hereafter. But others were very different. Who are these others? You know of Habib. You know of Muslim ibn Awsajah. When Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam comes to Kufa, Hani ibn Urwa, Muslim ibn Awsajah, Habib ibn Mawahib, Nafi' bin Hilal, they all come running to Muslim ibn Aqil. These are our guys. These are our boys. With all due respect, these are our guys. Shia number one. But then there are other people by their own confession said, I'm not your Shia even if I have love for your family. Abu Abdullah leaves Mecca, and when he leaves Mecca, he spoke with Farazda, and he made his way. He received the news on the way that Muslim Aqil has been martyred in Kufa. All of a sudden, he comes face to face with an army. He meets this army of perhaps 1,000 men, and he asks their commander, Alana am alayna? Are you with us or against us? And the response comes from their commander, Bal alayka ya Aba Abdullah. We are against you, ya Aba Abdullah. We haven't come here to join you. We've come here on orders to divert you from wherever you're going. Yabna Zahra, wherever you want to go, I can't let you go there. I want to be an obstacle in your path. God forbid I'm one of the people that look to the Imam of my time and say, Bal alayka ya sahib as-sah. So he confesses with his own tongue, O Imam al-Husain, I'm against you, I'm not with you, I'm not with Shia. So at one point Abu Abdullah alayhi salam tells his commander, he said, ثَقَلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ, may your mother weep over you. You're blocking the path of the Imam of your time. You're blocking the path of the grandson of Rasulullah. Don't you know who my parents are? But he does. He does know who his parents are. He says, Husain, had anyone else said the same statement to me, I would have responded in the same manner, but what can I do when your mother is Zahra? How dare I use your mother's name in a negative way, knowing that your mother is Sayyidati Nisa'il Alam. Oh, this love that's now in your heart, we're waiting for it to translate into action one day. Step one is complete. You're a lover of the Ahlul Bayt. But now that you're escorting the family of the Ahlul Bayt to Karbala, we're waiting more, we're waiting. Take your minds to Karbala. You can imagine now, Sakina, whenever she wants, she goes to Furat, she takes a drink of water, she comes back. She doesn't need to ask her uncle Abbas, can you go and bring it for me? They're right next to Furat. But then a day comes when Hur says, I've received orders to move you from Furat. Hur, not only did you divert the path of the Imam of your time, furthermore, you moved the women and the children of the Ahlul Bayt away from water. You are leaving them thirsty in the hot desert. Hur, you said that you love Zahra. These are the children of Zahra. Show up. We're waiting for you. The Imam of your time is waiting. The Imam of your time made his way all the way to Karbala so that perhaps he could save you. And the Imam of our time is waiting so that he can save us. But it's time to show up. Sallallahu alayhi ya Abu Abdullah. Sallallahu alaykum ya Ahl Bayt al-Nubuwwah. The army of Ibn Sa'd is busy. Everyone is sharpening their swords. Everyone is discussing what will happen tomorrow. But Hur is perplexed. Hur doesn't know what to do. He can hear from the tents of Husain, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. The thirst is killing me. He goes to Umar ibn Sa'd, he says, tomorrow we really fight against the son of Rasulullah. He says, Hur, the least of what you'll see tomorrow is that hands will fly and heads will be severed. Hur is bothered by this. He doesn't like what he hears. On the morning of Ashura, the drums are beating, the war is beginning. Now he looks to the right and he looks to the left. He says, Wallah, I see myself between heaven and hell. And I cannot allow myself to choose hell over heaven. He ties his hands behind his back and he makes his way towards the camp of Abu Abdullah. Now he's saying, Labbaik, O Imam of my time. I spent all of this time at last. I spent all of this time as your enemy. He throws himself off of the horse and he says, Husain, is there any forgiveness for me? Will you take me back after I left your children thirsty? I ignored you, I neglected you, I brought you here, but Sayyidi, is there a way back? Abu Al-Fadl Abbas, according to some reports, sees this scene. He says, Hor, you're a commander, stand up. Why are you on your knees? Don't you know you've come to the tent of Rahmatullah al-Wasi'ah? You've come to the tent of the vast mercy of Allah. Whoever, no matter what sin they've committed, He takes them back. Abu Abdullah says, Hor, I've accepted you. But I'm ashamed in front of you. Why, Abu Abdullah? He says, Hor, you're my guest, but I don't have any water to offer you. Hor says, Abu Abdullah, don't offer me anything, let me offer my life for you. My dear brothers, whenever a shaheed would fall to the ground in his last moments, he would look back to the tents and say, Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. Let my last words and my last moments be salam to you, O son of Zahra. But when Hor fell, he didn't call out to Abu Abdullah. Do you know why? He felt ashamed. I am the one that left you thirsty. Ya Abu Abdullah, let me fall and not be embarrassed. My brothers, even the one that doesn't call out to Abu Abdullah, he still comes over him anyway. Abu Abdullah came over the body of Hor. He said, Anta Horun kama sallatka Hor, now that you answered my call, you have really reached freedom. Now you're free, Hor. Hor, in your last moments, what do you want from your master? They say, Hor had a wound on his head. And Abu Abdullah took out a handkerchief and wrapped it around his head. Hor, this cloth around your head belonged to his mother Zahra. Now that you're going to see her, you're going to see her with a gift of Zahra. But I want to say this, in his last moments as well, Husain had a gift from Zahra on his body. But that shirt that his mother had sewn for him, the enemies didn't leave on his body. Sallallahu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. Sallallahu alaykum ya